So, oh, there you are. Okay, fine.
Yep, just had to cough, that's all. Didn't
Okay.
want to bother you
Hi,
all with my cough.
everybody. Welcome back to the Sunny Island Seminar Room. We have a wonderful third seminar for you tonight, and the lovely Sue here will be able to talk you through that. Sue, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thanks so much, Steph. I'm really grateful to have a number of excellent Canadian counselors join me this afternoon. We're coming in from the West Coast, all of us. So we're looking at 4 o'clock, so not too late a night for any of us. So we've got Scott Atherton from Mulgrave School, Peter Nealon from the Atlantic Bridge, Colette Kohler from University College Cork, Jennifer from Collingwood School, and Ruth, who's just joining us now from St. Michael's University School in Victoria. So the format today is we're going to ask a lot of questions to our guests here, Colette and Peter from Atlantic Bridge, and just take a sort of a baton and hand over the talking stick to various counselors who've put together these questions because these are the most common questions that they hear from their Canadian students. So maybe Scott, I'll let you take it away.
Sure, thanks, Sue. I'm happy to do that. Welcome, everyone. And Peter and Colette, thank you very much for being here to answer our questions.
For sure.
So I'll kick things off by starting with the first question, which is, as a Canadian student studying medicine in Ireland, will I be able to practice medicine back in Canada? And what will I need to do in order to qualify to practice medicine in Canada?
Yeah, well, thanks, Scott, and thanks, Sue and Stavrola for putting this together. Really grateful to be here this afternoon. The pathway home to Canada, there's lots of Canadian students in Ireland. There's 6 medical schools there, and populated with a significant number of Canadian students. The road home really starts early in the medical school, in your medical school journey. And it's about making yourself as competitive a candidate as you can to residency programs in Canada. And I should also mention that a lot of the Canadians that go to Ireland pursue residency training in the United States. And those pathways are really quite parallel. So when a student sort of gets to the sort of second or third year of the program, at that point, they should start really planning the process of applying to a residency. And they should undertake clinical electives back in North America. And that's really the first step. The North American, Canadian, US residency programs, they that Canadians studying medicine abroad will have undertaken a clinical elective program, and hopefully in a specialty that they wish to pursue in residency. The Irish universities have put a lot of effort over the years into developing a lot of these relationships with North American institutions to provide these clinical elective programs. They're typically about 8 weeks. A lot of students do 2 of them. That's the first step, your clinical electives. The next step is your board exams. For Canadians, there's the MCC QE1. It's a Medical Council of Canada qualifying exam. And that's your first major board exam. Again, the schools, the universities in Ireland, they do provide students with access to prep materials, and also the fact that there are so many Canadians in Ireland, they're well organized amongst themselves in preparing for these exams, and not only how to prepare, how to study, what study materials to use outside of the academic curriculum. And so they're well prepared and they're well advised in what they need to do. There's also NACOSCE, the Assessment Collaboration Objective Structured Clinical Exam. I know it's quite a mouthful, isn't it? And that's run twice a year in Canada in March and September, and students have to undertake that as well. And at that point, you're entering your final year, you're in your final year, and you start applying to the organization in Canada that manages the residency application program. It's called CARMS, Canadian Residency Matching Service. And then also the program in the US is ERAS, the Electronic Residency Application Service. And a lot of the Canadians would apply to both. And so that's the pathway, but there's strategy around that as well. And then you get into this area of, what it is the student is applying for, what is it they want to pursue post-graduation. And some residencies are more competitive than others, and it's basically comes down to supply and demand. So there's residencies like radiology or dermatology that are in very high demand, and there's not that many of them. So a student who's pursuing that would be more inclined to consider both US and Canada, because the residency, the availability of residencies in the United States. To give you an example, there's about 20,000 US medical grads annually, and there's about 25,000 residency positions in the States. So, and not only that, it's not a question of, the US grads get the best residencies and the foreign grads gets what's left over. They'll look at your exam scores, they'll look at your CV and where you finished in your class. All these things come into play. But the students will apply often to both. And then, and hopefully if you've got your clinical elective and you've done well in your board exams and your transcript is competitive, then we find that the majority of our students are securing the residency positions they're looking for, be it US or Canada. So that's an overview of the pathway home. On our website, atlanticbridge.com, that's laid out in great detail. And with also, there's lists there of going back at least a decade of where the graduates have landed. And that's a useful resource, because if you were to go through those lists, you see there's patterns. And so we tend to see a lot of our grads going to the same residency programs year on year. And that's probably a function of the fact that, in previous years, the grads have gone there, have done very well. And they're keen to have the Irish graduates. And so there's fallback positions for students that may not match. Although we would hope all our students match between the US or Canada, but internship years available in Ireland now. It used to be 2-3 years ago, pre-COVID, it could be challenging to get an internship position, but that's no longer the case. And so that will give a student an additional year of training and another year to apply back to Canada if needed. So there's some options there available as well. But all in all, it was interesting this year when we saw the first iteration of CARMS for students that were coming out 2022 graduates, and there was 80% matched. So that's certainly a big shift in the CARMS match rate. I think that is, well, there's a number of factors that play in that, but I think students now, the situation is certainly more positive than it has been in the past.
Okay, I'll move on to the second question. We have, I think, 10 in our queue. As a Canadian student studying law in Ireland, will I be able to practice law back in Canada? And what will I need to do in order to qualify to practice in Canada?
Okay. Would you like me to take that?
I have listed as both of you as contributing to that response, but maybe Colette, you could start.
Yeah,
first.
I can start. Yeah, so hello everyone from University College Cork in Ireland. So in terms of the law, so the BCL and the LLB in Ireland, it's a great first step to qualifying back in Canada. So it's accepted by the National Committee of Accreditation. So when students take the 3-year degree, they can actually extend it to 4 years. And what they can do then is they do need to take additional subjects in Canada just to get the full qualification. So they do need to do 5 subjects, which is Canadian constitutional law, Canadian administrative law, also Canadian professional responsibility, and also Canadian criminal law. So once they have completed those in a Canadian university, as well as the degree in Ireland, they're qualified to work back in Canada. So lots of universities in Ireland would have partner universities in Canada. UCC, we have a partnership with Montreal University and also University of Victoria. So some students that take the BCL International can transfer to those universities in year 3 and then come back to University College Cork in their final year. It is competitive to get a place in the universities, but it's about working with the School of Law. So that would be kind of from our side in terms of going back to Canada with your qualification. It's a great grounding of a degree that can be used in England and in Wales, in the US and in Canada. So I think, studying law in Ireland, in any of the universities is a great first step to having that qualification for your career back in Canada. I don't know if there's anything there, Peter, that you want to add.
Yeah, I just add one thing to that. Thank you for that. With the 5 additional subjects, the admin law, constitutional, criminal, Canadian law, and I think it's professional responsibility, you can also be signed off on those by taking a challenge exam. And a lot of the students will go take those prep course through NCA Tutor. And you can then take those challenge exams, pass them, and then you proceed to do articling, and you need to do articling in the province where you want to practice, where you're going to be seeking a license, and the articling takes up about a year to complete, and then you take the bar exam after that. So yeah, it's a pretty efficient process.
Okay, I think I'm up next with the next question. Hi, I'm Ruth. Thanks for hosting this event. And Peter and Colette, thank you for being here to answer our questions. This question is about the likelihood of residency match. So what are the likely chances for a residency match in Canada or the US?
Shall I take that, Colette?
Okay.
Yeah, I think I addressed this maybe already. They're very good. Our students are matching, and so I think I kind of covered that in the first question. There's really no issue to point to there. If the students are preparing themselves properly and following the pathway that I outlined, they should be fine.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay.
Thank you,
So,
Ruth. Good to see you. Now it's on to Scott. Thank you.
So I'll take the next question, and this one is for Colette. What kind of support is offered to international students at Irish universities?
Yeah, so we do a great package for university international students. So we have dedicated international offices with all our universities. So they guide the application process right up to enrollment. We also have dedicated international managers like myself with different colleges. So subject matter experts to help you with your application. And once you're kind of going along and you've kind of got your offer letter, when it gets to, I suppose, getting closer to crossing the pond and landing on Irish shores, we have dedicated accommodation teams in all the universities. So they will help students with their accommodation, whether they want to be in student complexes or private accommodation. So whatever the student's budget is, we have dedicated teams to help you. We also have great careers offices in the universities, so they help you with your CV development, with mock interviews, and it's really great to advise students to engage with the careers office once you join the university, because I know in UCC we work with over 1,400 international and national companies, so it will really secure you for your job after your graduation. Great students union, so the students have a great voice when they get onto campus. Lots of activities. The first week is for undergraduates is Freshers Week, so not much study, but loads of activities, loads of fun activities to get to know fellow students. We have in UCC we've over 104 societies and about 50 sporting clubs. So students really settle in, and I think all the Irish universities want international students to settle in and make new friends and join as many clubs and societies, and really, I suppose, belong and become part of the Irish university family. There is a big emphasis on health and well-being, so dedicated teams for all the students, counselling, well-being, also help with your finances as well, so help with your budgeting. Lots of the universities are within walking distance of the campus and the cities, so I suppose living expenses can be a lot more moderate than perhaps some of the UK universities. But yeah, there's great libraries in all the universities, and we also have skill centres to help you with your academic work as well. So I could list a lot of services, but they're all you international students are well looked after, and there's always somebody to be signposted to and help along the way. So, and I suppose we underpin, we are a very friendly nation, so students can always ask a fellow student. We have peer supports, and the academics are very approachable. So yeah, they're well looked after.
Great. Colette, I think I have a follow-up question for you, and that is, are Canadian students able to do internships and or work placements with Irish companies in tech, pharmaceutical, business, law, or other industries while they are studying in Ireland?
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of the internships and work placements are built into a lot of our degrees, both at bachelor degree and masters. There is actually a work placement manager dedicated for each of the colleges. So they will work directly with the students to understand what type of industry they'd like to work with. And that's usually in the second semester. So students do the academic theory part in the first semester and then apply all that within the industry. So in Ireland, we are Silicon Valley of Europe. So we have the Google, Facebook, Amazon. We have 9 of the pharmaceutical companies based in Cork as well. So they are all companies are crying out for graduates from Irish universities to work. And an interesting fact is that 50% of the students that do their work placement get taken on in full-time employment after they graduate, because the companies get to know the students and they know how valuable their qualification is, their work ethic. Big emphasis on in UCC we have a world ready, work ready motto. So students are really kind of prepared for the outside world. So yeah, they can work. And if students want to do any part-time work, that's feasible as well. Jennifer, they can work part-time as well. Some students like to work maybe during term, so they can work up to 20 hours a week, or during the holidays if they want, they can work a bit longer, up to 40 hours if they want to take on a part-time job. So yeah, lots of opportunities.
Colette?
Ruth, before
So
we jump in
Colette-
with the next question, could I ask just a follow-up because it touches on that? And that is, you touched on it a little bit, Colette, but to what degree can students stay and work in Ireland after they graduate? Students.
Yeah, so for a bachelor degree, they can stay for 12 months after they qualify. And for a master's degree, which is interesting, some students might not be aware, the master's degrees in Ireland are generally 1 year in duration. So afterwards, students can stay on for 2 years, a 2-year stay back visa. So yeah, so we encourage all the students to engage with the careers office the minute they join, and that can help them maybe secure that job before they graduate.
Thank you. So I think Scott's still there. I think we got a little mixed up with the questions, but I'm okay to ask.
There's
I
a
think
second
this is-
part of my question that
Yeah.
Scott
Ruth?
asked the first part of my question, but there is a second part to the question, Colette, and that is about Canadians working in from Irish universities in other EU countries. So in Ireland, yes. What about other EU countries? Is it fairly easy for them to graduate and then continue to work in Irish or other EU countries?
Yeah, I guess Ireland is part of the EU, so I suppose gaining their degree in Ireland, they're getting a European qualification. So definitely, it does help with their opportunities for jobs afterwards. So yeah, I think that's a great starting point to have that Irish qualification.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think the next one's for
Great, yeah, we'll go
Peter.
to the next question. And Ruth, I
Yeah.
apologize. I hadn't looked down at the next question and realized that I usurped it. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to step on your toes or steal your thunder. My apologies. Okay, so the next question is, as a Canadian student, what are the of studying medicine in Ireland versus the UK, since both offer direct entry medicine?
Yeah, okay. So I'd say there's a few things there that I'd comment on. So the competitive advantages, if you like. I know the Irish schools have put so much effort over the years into developing these clinical elective programs. And I can't overstate their importance because we see so many students undertake these clinical electives and they springboard them to residency programs, formal residency programs. If you're to look sort of at our website again and you go to the medical schools and we list the places, the destinations. They're an impressive list. And so a lot of work has gone on into that over the years. And that's a huge resource for the students to be able to go to a Johns Hopkins or UBC and undertake an organized clinical elective. And I think that Ireland has probably, we've done an excellent job in that. I'm not sure what a lot of the British universities do, but to prepare their students for board exams. But that's another area that the Irish universities have put a lot of resources into. And that involves providing the students, I mean, they'll make financial contributions, they provide provide access to prep courses. I think they use USMLE World and a couple of US companies like that. And remember that the Canadian boards and the US boards, I mean, they're essentially examining the same material. So if you prepare for one, you're preparing for the other. So the board prep is important, and that extends to, over the years. I mean, a unique thing about medicine in Ireland is that so many of the academic staff have trained in North America. It's a well-worn path for graduates of Irish universities, Irish graduates, to go to North America to pursue fellowships and advanced training, and then find their way back to Ireland and work in the academic sector. And they brought with them some tools that they use to help prep the students. And by that I mean specifically how exam questions are structured in Ireland. This was told to me by a chap named Pat Murray, Professor Pat Murray, former dean of UCD, and he was a USMLE question writer when he was in the University of Chicago, and he brought that back to Ireland with him, and sort of set about creating a system where the examinations that are delivered in the Irish schools are very much online with these type of questioning. And it's all very technical, and for people a lot smarter than me to get their heads around. But I think that's a huge advantage. Another thing I'll point to is critical mass. There's so many Canadians in Ireland. I mean, it's got to be, studying medicine, I mean, there's got to be 1,200 of them at this point. And so they're well organized as a group, and they have the Canadian Irish Medical Students Association, KIMSA, and the North American Irish Medical Student Association. And those groups are highly organized, and they support each other, and the senior classmen report back to the junior, and they tell them, things I wish I'd known a year ago. And that sort of robust conversation goes on, and they have, they meet regularly, and these events are supported by the schools. And so they have that robust discourse around getting home. So they're all terribly well informed. And I'm not sure the UK schools have that sort of, I don't know, maybe they do. But so I can't really do a compare and contrast. But I point to those areas: the board preparation, clinical electives, the critical mass, the number of students that are involved in this, and how the academic staff, the connections that we have with North America, which have been a huge help in developing these clinical electives, because a lot of it comes down to picking up the phone to an old colleague in Johns Hopkins or Cleveland Clinic, and putting a small program together that'll take a few students every year.
Thank you so much, Peter. We're getting close to the end of the seminar, so I wanted to make sure that we ask one of the most important questions, if certainly parents are involved. Maybe we could skip to the fees. Is Ruth there? Would she like to ask that question?
And I would love to ask that. How do fees at Irish universities compare to those at Canadian and UK universities?
Yeah, so I guess for more the humanities and social science would probably start around the 16,700 up to maybe about 18,000. Then you're kind of graduating into the business and law. They're kind of around the 18,000 maybe to 19,000. Then science and engineering, you're getting into the 22,000 per year. And then I suppose medicine, then you're kind of getting closer to that 40,000, that higher mark. All of the colleges have scholarships, so merit-based scholarships, and for the UCC you don't actually need any additional application. It's a scholarship is applied to the offer letter. So if you were to kind of throw in the living costs on top of the tuition fee, just to give you a ballpark of a figure, you could be looking at maybe starting around the 30,000, Canadian dollars, up to maybe, it could go up to 35,000, 37,000. But depending on what program students are interested in applying for, the living expenses in Ireland can be more manageable than maybe UK universities. A lot of the universities are based in the city centre. They're walking distance to the campus. So it is cost effective really as a country to study.
You
Can
muted.
we
Sarah.
squeeze in one more
yeah.
question for Colette? Or are we out of time?
We've just come to the end mark just now, but yeah, thank you guys so much for your questions and for all of your answers. It's been great tonight. Everybody else watching, please do head back to the lobby and have some chats with some other institutions that are there for any other questions that you have, and there will be another seminar in about 15 minutes time.
Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Much appreciated, and good to see some of you again. All of you.
Great.
Okay.
Yes.
Take care.
Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.
Thank you
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Everyone.